Let's do it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know if you can hear me. I know the audio may be a little different because this microphone here is not operating well. So just let me know if you can hear me clearly. If you can hear me clearly. Or if you can understand me or whatever. Let me see how this sounds real quick. Oh, you can hear me clearly? Beautiful. Okay, cool. All right. I had changed. I've been doing a lot of changing, like with my room and stuff, as you can see. Trying not to hide my shoes over there, but but okay, beautiful. All right. As long as you can hear me clearly, that's all that really matters, right? Alrighty. Let me move this out the way. Welcome everybody. Glad you all are here on this, was it Monday? Beautiful Monday. Oh, let me get my camera right here. All right. Move it up just a teensy weensy. All right, we're Shannon. How we doing? How are we doing on this beautiful Monday? Is everyone locked in? Everyone locked in? Y'all been doing your practices? You've been, staying on top of your health game, making sure everything is, going well. Hey, Andrea, K-Tool, Jamaica, shout out to y'all. Welcome. Now, so the past previous weeks, we started off talking about nutrition and mindful eating. And I wanted to start off with that because it's important as we come off of a challenge, or if we're coming off some strenuous type of fast or a cleanse, there's proper nutrients that we need to make sure that we're getting, so I thought that was important to start it off. And then last week we spoke about consistent physical activity and the importance of exercising, the importance of making sure that you stay active, that you stay fit, and that as much as you do work out, rest is also important. So we went over the details that embodies everything that comes with living a healthy life, or making sure that we maintain a healthy life outside of a challenge. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about that I feel is one of the more important things as well is our mental and our emotional wellness. Now, when we think about our mental and emotional wellness, it's something that we probably don't realize that a lot of people go through. There's many different hardships that we go through and so many different cycles that we go through, but this is something that we need to make sure that we take care of and that we nurture in the process while we are eating better and continuously monitoring the things that we put in ourselves. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is our mental and emotional wellness. All right. So I like to start off everything that I do with an affirmation. So today's affirmation is, I cultivate emotional strength and mental clarity, creating harmony and balance within myself. Now, this affirmation, it speaks to life. It speaks to having a good balance between, having clarity about where you're going and also having clarity about how you handle situations that may be, that may come up in life, just in general. So these are things that I think that we need to keep in mind. And so one thing that we need to focus on is building resilience and clarity, building emotional resilience and clarity, and knowing that we may have an attachment to some type of food. We may have an attachment to a particular group of food that isn't going to be beneficial to our overall well-being. And so we need to be mindful of emotions that may occur, that may blossom and bring out not necessarily the best in us, and it will show us our weaknesses in this particular period in time. So I know a lot of people, they emotional eat. And this is something that I'm guilty of, it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing. It could be an exciting thing that's happening. It's like emotional eating and things of that nature. But monitoring your emotions and understanding how that plays into your overall health, especially when you come off a challenge, you don't necessarily have anyone telling you, hey, this is what you need to do next. You need to be mindful of that, so understand different types of emotional triggers that will occur. And so football season is about to come up, right? We have a lot of football fans. I know I'm a football fan, so I'll watch football from time to time. And what happens when you're around football, or there's gatherings of football, or people who watch football? What happens? What happens is we'll get the nachos, we'll get the chips, we'll go to football games, and we'll get all of these things. Like if anyone's ever been to a stadium or like a professional football game, that everything that they have at those games are going to be popcorn, nachos, hot dogs, and sodas, and all these different types of pops and drinks that are filled with sugar, that are filled with salt, so much sodium, and it has everything that we don't want to eat. But since we're caught up in the moment, we allow it to be something that we're okay with, and we just ignore it for this particular moment. But that meal, or that, not even a meal, that's whatever you ate. I don't even like to call that food, because I don't even categorize it as food, because it's just junk. But all that stuff that you paid all these exorbitant prices for, you did this because you're excited. And there's nothing wrong with being excited and giving into that emotion of feeling joy. But when you're feeling that excitement, you're not thinking about what you're eating. You're not. The only thing you're thinking about, does it taste good? You're not thinking about, how is this playing into my health? You're literally just thinking about, man, I'm enjoying this for the moment. And we're all guilty of it at some point in time. But when we're on our health journey and we're making sure that we're consuming things that are beneficial for our overall well-being, that is when we need to lock in and understand, like, hey, you know what? I may be enjoying this football game, and I may be enjoying this WNBA game, and I like to eat all these snacks. Or maybe there's a new movie coming out. We like to indulge in all of these snacks, but we put our health on the back burner. We need to be aware of that. We need to draw attention to the things that we consume when we're just out in life having fun, because not all negative emotions have to be tied to, giving in to that eating habit. It's also tied to joyous moments, celebrations, weddings, and, there's different festivals, and there's concerts, and there'll be different gatherings in your city. And so our emotions are built into that. So what we need to start to have is clarity, understanding that, I want to have fun, but I am not going to indulge in so many things that aren't going to contribute to my overall well-being. And we need to have resilience to this stuff. Like, I know the pressure. When I went to Cincinnati, at the end of May, I went to Cincinnati at the end of May, and there's this, it's like a bakery, and it's called Buskin's Bakery. And it's like a local bakery in Cincinnati. And it makes, there's this thing called chess pie. And chess pie is my thing. It's like one of my weaknesses, but I was going to avoid it. I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't going to try to buy it. I wasn't going to get it or anything. But since I was in town, my mom was like, hey, I got some chess pie for you. You want some chess pie? And I didn't even tell her I wanted it. She already bought the chess pie for me. Knowing I shouldn't be eating it, but I already know, I don't really eat chess pie like that. So, it'll happen, every 5 years or something like that I'll eat a chess pie. But for this, I indulged. I didn't want to, and I knew while I was eating it that I was indulging, but I ended up bringing it back to Texas, and I ended up sharing it with, I let Chris have some, let him try it or whatever. But I say all that to say that even in moments that we enjoy, that we know we should be disciplined, we give in to that desire. So it's not like it's not something that we're not accustomed to dealing with, but we just have to know how to approach the situation when it occurs, because the funny thing is, you'll notice that oftentimes when you're fasting, or if you're trying to eat healthy, you're trying to eat cleaner, that's when all the pressure from you, maybe your family, your friends, your coworkers, and people that are around you, they'll start to come up with all kinds of foods and be like, hey man, try this out. Try this out. You like this? Hey, we better have a barbecue. It's hot outside. We better have a barbecue. And they'll start putting up stuff that you're trying to avoid. So we need to have that understanding that, you know what, I can avoid this. So build that resilience. The more you surround yourself to something, the more you'll be acclimated to avoid it. And it's similar to anything. Like we're humans. We're beings of habit. But once we get into a situation, we adapt. We all adapt to our environment. We all adapt to our environment, and we maneuver the best way that's fit for us. So if it's fit for you to build that resilience to going to, festivals or any type of concert or any type of event that has food, we need to have the understanding of what needs to happen. Okay. Now, another thing that we need to do is be mindful of our stress. Life brings us stress. Life brings us stress on so many accounts, whether it's dealing with children, whether it's going to school, whether it's going to work and having responsibilities to manage other people. They all have different types of things that are going to cause us stress. And what stress is going to lead us to is another form of emotional eating, getting down on ourselves, feeling bad about ourselves. And when you're stressed, the best thing that we can do is silence ourselves and start to manage that with mindful techniques. We need to start to manage that stuff with mindful techniques, and we need to make sure that we understand the benefits that come with being mindful of the things that we're consuming. Meditation. I know a lot of people do yoga. That's something that's very beneficial when it's, when you feel stressed. Writing, get your journal. Get your healthy alternative journal, ha 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 ha, and just write down in that bad boy, and write down the things that you're going through, and write down what you could have eaten or what you should have eaten and things of that nature. So just be mindful of everything and use a lot of these techniques. So when these situations occur, you can completely avoid it. You completely just negate that emotional distress that came your way, because no one likes to be stressed. No one likes to be stressed. Like we're out of our element. And I know, like, you ever seen that commercial? It's like a Snickers commercial, whatever, where they'll be like, you're not yourself when you're angry or something like that. And they'll give them a Snickers to make them feel better, when that's literally just adding on to, the negative side of, eating. But it just paints the picture of when you are in stressful situations, you are not yourself. When you are in stressful situations, you are not yourself at all. So once you understand that, you'll be able to maneuver so you don't do things that's out of character, because right now you're seeking to be healthy. You're seeking to eat. You're seeking to be the best version of yourself. So what you need to do is avoid all those things and use a lot of these managing techniques when it comes to, avoiding stress and getting better with stress. Okay. And coloring, does anyone like to color? Like, use coloring books. They have like adult coloring books. These are things that ease the mind when you're in stressful situations. And because our emotional wellness is something that's very important. It's something that plagues us. It's something that allows control over us, So don't allow yourself to be controlled by these temporary emotions of negativity. And we all go through it. But once we experience it and we feel it and we recognize it and we see it, that's when we need to be like, you know what? We need to have a game plan to make sure that we're attacking these things the right way, okay? And when you're journaling, one thing that you want to do is be reflective. You want to ask yourself questions. Be reflective about the things that you're experiencing. Think about your thoughts. What thoughts are going through your head when you're going through some type of emotional fluctuation? What are you thinking about? And what caused that? What are you experiencing in this moment to even cause that? And why are your thoughts even going to a place that's allowing you to be down on yourself or be hard on yourself? It's good to analyze yourself. That's the benefits of journaling, because it helps you identify those emotional triggers. It helps you identify those patterns. And so when you explore different ways, you be proactive with different coping mechanisms. We all have different ways to cope. Some people like to eat, drink, smoke, all this type of stuff. But we need to find healthier ways that are going to be more beneficial to us when we're coping with these things. And so maybe talking on the phone with a friend, maybe creating something. Be creative. There's a lot of creative people in here. There's a lot of creative people out here in our group. So we need to make sure that we utilize our talent. Utilize your talents. What do you like to do? What do you like to do? You like to play the piano? You like to play the guitar? What do you like to do? Identify that, and you can use those things to mitigate some anger that may come up, maybe some sadness that you may have. We need to do all of that to make sure that we're not eating things that's going to make us gain all this weight. Because the sucky thing about weight is that it's so much easier to gain it than it is to lose it, right? It's so much easier to gain weight, especially as you go through life and you grow and you get a little older and things of that nature. But our bodies, it starts to weigh on us, literally. And it's easier to gain it than to lose it. And so we have to work extra harder. We have to work even harder to make sure that we keep it off. So doing these techniques when it comes to journaling and being mindful, all of these things are really beneficial. So look at your life. Think about the things that you go through on a daily basis. What are you going through? What do you struggle with? What emotional imbalances do you have right now that's in your life that you want to get better at? What is that? I don't know. So what I want you to do is to write those things down. We all have different things that we're going through on a day-to-day basis, and you don't have to be a warrior by yourself. You don't have to be a warrior by yourself. Write that stuff down. Get it out. Don't feel like you have to hold any emotional thing in. But identifying what's going on, identify what's going on with you internally, that will be the major factor that determines if you are going to stay on your path or are you going to get sidetracked? Are you going to go on a little side quest, go on a little mini adventure and start doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, right? So let's make sure that we're being mindful of all of these things, and let's practice this regularly. Let's practice these things regularly, and think about some different type of strategies that you can use. Like, what type of strategies can you use to make sure that you can, get rid of any type of stress that comes your way? You can schedule it. You can have sessions with yourself, and schedule moments of where you can get some alone time. Write down your thoughts. Maybe have those stress balls. I remember watching, what's that, Boys in the Hood? If anybody ever seen Boys in the Hood? I think it's Boys in the Hood. And I think Lawrence Fishburne, his character was a dad or whatever. And I think he was waiting for his son, or he knew his son was about to go somewhere. So he had these little balls, these little 2 balls in his hand, and he was like, stressing it, he was moving them around, and I was just like, But like when I was younger, I just thought it was cool because it was just, little balls or whatever. But then I got older and I realized like, these are stress balls. These are like a coping mechanism. So you can use something like that to help you when you're in these type of stress things. But we need to make sure that we set up environments and that we set up schedules for those moments. We make schedules to go shopping. We make schedules to go out with our friends. We make schedules to, for work and to get up in the morning and all this stuff. And so if we can do all of these things with our schedule and set things up, why not do the same thing for yourself? Why not do the exact same thing for yourself? You should take nature walks. I promise you, once you get grounded in nature, the world just becomes a much better place. It makes you feel better mentally. It's like all the negative energy that you have, it just literally drops off and pours off of your body. It literally does that. So get out in nature, schedule some nature walks, see the beauty of the world that's around you. And I know a lot of times when we're in a negative mindset, if we're feeling overwhelmed, that becomes our world. When we are overwhelmed by so much, it becomes our world. And that's the only thing that we can think of. We can only think about the negative things that happen, and we just forget all the positive stuff that has happened in our lives. Like after a challenge and after things that you've experienced that were positive, after you've lost 20 pounds, after you've gone through a successful fast, a successful cleanse, and a successful prep, and everything that took months to do, we feel great about that. We feel good. You're getting compliments from random people. You're getting compliments from people that you love and people that you know. But what happens when you get into that mindset of negativity, of when something doesn't go your way one time, what happens? We start to talk bad to ourselves. We talk down to ourselves, and we forget all the great things that we're doing. We forget all the great things that we're doing, and we start to highlight all the negative stuff. Why? Why do we do that? Why? Like we are so much more deserving of the great things that we're pursuing versus the negative things that we're trying to avoid. So when those negative thoughts, those negative moments, those negative experiences, when they come your way, acknowledge it, recognize it. Be like, you know what? I see you, negativity. I see you trying to hinder my progress. I see you. But I am not going to allow you to deter me off of my journey and get me off my path. Because we've done that before, right? We've done that before. We've done being on the seesaw, going up and down, our weights going up and down, up and down, up and down. We've done that. We're not doing it no more. We're evolving past that. We're evolving past that point of view, that state of mind, that experience in that point in time. We're getting past that, okay? So make sure that we can set up strategies. Even if you have to, we have cell phones. We all have smartphones. We all have smartphones. So you can set up a schedule, a timer, an alarm in your phone to make sure that you are on top of it and you don't have to just memorize it all to yourself. You can keep these things to yourself, but you don't necessarily have to memorize it. Utilize the technology that we have. Utilize the journals and the books that you have, and utilize every tool to your benefit so you can make sure that you're staying on your path and that you're not gaining weight. Because that's like one of the main reasons why I did start this, because I see a lot of people talking about themselves gaining weight after a challenge. And I'm just like, there's so much we can do to avoid that. And so we need to make sure that we utilize these things, okay? Now, breathing techniques are beneficial. Like breathing techniques, when you're stressed, when you're overly stressed, I've learned that the power of the breath is extremely powerful. So learn to utilize the power of the breath. Use and like another good thing, the reason why like the power of the breath is good, because it gets rid of stress. It relieves you of stress. It may not be like a permanent thing, but for that moment in time that you're in, breathe. Everything starts with the breath. Breathe life into yourself. Breathe life into yourself. When you inhale, be grateful, be thankful. Gratitude also helps relieve stress, because sometimes when we're thinking about what's not happening for us, we just tend to focus on the negative. But if you can, that's why it's always beneficial to write down like the great things that are happening in your day. That's why it's always like, even throughout the week, because you can look back from your past week and highlight the things that you were happy about. And when you highlight the things that you were happy about, that takes your mind off of the negative things that are currently messing with you. So do that. Like, write those things down. Write all those beautiful things. That's why it's good to do reflective journaling, okay? Now, another thing that we can do is cultivate positive relationships. We need to start to cultivate positive relationships. And the reason why we want to cultivate positive relationships is because we're human. We're all beings. We're attached. We're all linked to one another, whether we like it or not. We all come from this planet Earth. We're all connected in some way. We all have lungs and we have the capacity to see, for the most of us who are blessed to be able to do it. But for the majority, yes, we have the same stuff. We just come from different walks of life, but we're all connected. So what we need to start to do is connect with people, connect with like-minded people, build these positive relationships, engage in meaningful conversations. Engage in meaningful conversations with people. It could be someone that's part of the AHA community. It could be a family member. It could be someone that you see at the grocery store randomly. It could be the grocery store clerk, whoever it is. But make sure that we are consistently cultivating positive relationships, because positive relationships is going to be one of the driving forces of the reason why we do accomplish the things that we do. Now, while our goal and our journey may be personal and it's ours, but when we have people who are either like-minded, encouraging, positive, loving, caring, they are going to put energy into you. They are going to put energy into you. I'm sure y'all been in high school before, and they have pep rallies. I know back in my day, I never thought I'd say that. But when I was in high school, we used to have these like really hype pep rallies. And during those pep rallies, there were, cheerleaders come out, the music be blasting, and then, everyone's hype. And that's what you can look at when you think about a positive relationship and cultivating positive relationships. It can literally be a pep rally for your health. And I know that may seem super extreme, but that's how it is when you have positive people in your life. They're consistently rooting for you. They're consistently cheering for you, believing in you, and giving you all the positive energy to make sure that you can tackle your goals, that you stay on top of the things that you committed to. So it's a benefit. And I kind of want to give an anime reference, but okay, I'll give an anime reference. Maybe y'all know, maybe y'all don't. But anyway, Goku in Dragon Ball Z, he has a spirit bomb that he does. And what the spirit bomb does is it takes everyone else's energy who gives it his energy, and it makes him stronger so he can defeat the negative things that's trying to defeat or that's trying to beat him up or whatever. So think of it like that. Give your energy to, you give your energy to one source and it just lifts you up. It lifts you up, so make sure that we cultivate those positive relationships, meaningful ones though, because that nurtures support. That nurtures a healthy bond and commitment. Having someone who can actively listen to you, that is important. That is important. Having an ear that you can lean on. Having someone that you can talk to that has empathy, someone who can practice clear communication. These are the type of positive relationships that we want to cultivate throughout the entire journey while we're going through these things, okay? So when we're going through these things, we need to understand, like, it's okay to rely on someone. It's okay to, to put energy into someone outside of you if they're a positive force in your life, okay? So let's make that something that we think about consistently. And so our main goal for this entire week is to create self-awareness. This week, we are creating self-awareness. I see Andrea, I know, eating habits. I haven't seen snack and watch TV and I identify and change that. Yeah, you know what? Shout out to you, Andrea. I know you said that a while ago, but that's an amazing thing. Being able to challenge and change your habit, recognizing is a beautiful thing. Recognizing what you need to do better, and because a lot of times we are aware of our behaviors, but we don't actively do things that's going to make sure that we don't do these things again. Like we actively, we actively just ignore these things, and then it becomes something that becomes consistent, right? So if we actively ignore our bad habits, all it's going to do is perpetuate itself. It's going to continue on that cycle. It's going to make sure that we're not doing what we're meant to do or thinking that we should be doing, and it's going to get us off of our goal and the journey that we're on. So let's remember that if you see a habit that doesn't align with yourself or where you're seeking to be, then change it. Simply change it. Change that habit. Change that habit. Replace that habit with something that's a little bit more positive. It doesn't have to be like almighty positive and like, something that's way out of your realm of actually accomplishing, but think about how beneficial it'll be once you adopt a positive action to replace a negative action. There's little things that you can do, I remember when I was growing up, like I would have I guess what they call an RBF, at times where I guess when I'm sitting stagnant, I'm just chilling. I'm looking angry. I'm just mad. Like, why are you so mad at the world? I remember working at like a restaurant back in the day. My manager was just like, man, you just look so angry. Why are you so angry? And so what I slowly started to do is that, I don't want to look angry. I don't, when I'm just chilling, I don't want people to think I'm mad. So what I started doing to change that perception is I started just making it a habit when I'm not doing something that I have a little smirk. I'll smirk up my cheeks just a little bit. I'll put my lips up and I'll have like a neutral face, but it looks a little happy, right? So that's what I'll be doing. And so it's tiny, but now I do it and now I look more pleasant, when people are approaching me, I'm not looking approachable. I'm looking more approachable than I was in the past. But there's tiny little habits that you can do when it comes to your health, maybe your appearance, your well-being. What you output to the world, you get back. I believe in karma. I believe that karma is a very true thing. So if you want to put positive things out to the world, it will come back to you. So be positive to yourself, be grateful, and be mindful of the things that you say to yourself, that you do to yourself, and how you react in a situation, because you get what you give. You will get what you give. It's inevitable. Our lives are a result of that. You get what you give. I know some circumstances may seem unfair, but the only thing that you're responsible for is you and the actions that you do in the particular situation. So what we need to do is be mindful of everything that we're doing. And when we're mindful of these things, we need to make sure that we replace those negative habits with more positive habits. Okay. Now, what we want to focus on, like the goal for this week that I want everyone to focus on is I want you all to have self-awareness, and I want you all to enhance your emotional intelligence. That's that's the first goal that I want. The second one is I want us to start practicing stress management techniques. How do you manage your stress? Hey, Leslie, how you doing? But how do you manage your stress? Okay, develop a stress management technique and be consistent with it, because what we were doing prior, it's not helping. It's not working. How we've been handling our stress, how we've been managing our stress, it's not working. So what can we do to be better? We need to find a different way. So find something that works for you, not something that you've already been doing that got you to where you are now. Do something that works for you, that's brand new, that will create more neuroplasticity when you do new things and you experience new things and you get out of your comfort zone and do things that are going to put you in a better light, okay? So let's be mindful and be more proactive instead of reactive when it comes to managing stress. You don't have to be stressed out right now in order to deal with stress. That's probably the worst time to think about how to handle your stress. Is when you're stressed. No, think about it when you're peaceful, when you're at ease, when you're at a calm state of mind, where you can make rational decisions. There's not so much emotion that's charged behind the things that you do. So let's make sure that we can, while we're not stressed and we're feeling positive, we're feeling gleeful, we're feeling hopeful about the things that we're doing, the things that we're going to do. Let's create those strategies right now. Write them down. I said earlier about the coloring, about, going out in nature, getting some sun, get some of them vitamins, It's hot outside. I'm in Texas, so we pushing 100 right now, but it's hot outside, so maybe go outside in your backyard, maybe go for a walk around the neighborhood and get some of them vitamins. Invite that sun in, welcome the sun, embrace the sun, feel the warmth of nature, allow it to embody you, to take you over. It feels good, maybe a little hot, you may get a little tan, but it's all good. Stay outside for maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I don't know. But just whatever you're able to do, because I know sometimes it get real hot outside. It's like, ooh, that's enough, but just think about doing these different type of techniques, and all of these things will be beneficial. And the third goal, as I said, is to strengthen our support with one another in our group and our family and things of that nature. So make sure we strengthen our supportive groups and that we have nurturing relationships. Okay. Now, the things that I want you to do is there's some questions I want you to ask yourself. I want you to ask yourself throughout this week, or write this question down. How has mindfulness practices affected your emotional clarity and your stress levels? Like, how have the things that I mentioned, or maybe there's some techniques out there that you want to do that are better, how has it been for you? Has meditating been beneficial for you? Has writing in the journal been beneficial for you? Or do you need something else? Is what you're doing enough? Is there anything else that you are currently doing that you feel like, or maybe there's something I've already said that you're currently doing, but it's not working for you? If you've meditated and it's not working for you, or if you've written down, you've drawn, you did so many different things and it's not working for you, let me know, because there's always a way. We just have to find that way. We always have to find that way. And you're welcome, Kay. You're welcome, K Tool. Appreciate you. So we have to make sure we find that way instead of giving in, of thinking like, man, no matter what I'm doing, it's not working, so I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to give in to the stress and I'm just going to emotional eat, No, we have to find a way. Everything is aligned for you. You have things that align with you and who you are seeking to become. Like, we all have preferences. Some people like to learn through physical touch. Some people like to learn through sight and reading and hearing. We all have different ways that we like to do things. So if something that has been suggested isn't working for you, let us know. We can find something that works for you, okay? But the thing that I want you all to do for this one is be mindful of your practices, and I want you to realize, like, if you haven't meditated and you're about to meditate, and do it for 10 minutes, and if anyone out there, if you meditate but you just don't like, your mind just goes everywhere and things of that nature, start off low. 10, maybe 5 minutes, work your way to 10, go from 10 to 15, and do it in baby steps. Don't feel like you have to do an hour of meditation. Maybe that's too much, and maybe you feel like, I got stuff to do. I got things I got to do, whatever it may be that you have to do. But try to find little ways to put yourself in a position where you're able to successfully execute these stress management techniques, because I know they may sound simple or maybe a redundant thing, but if you're doing it, or if you've done it, you will understand the benefits of how it affects your life and the benefits you gain from just being silent, being still, being one, and thinking about the beautiful things that are happening in your life, focusing on the positive things that's happening in your life, clearing your mind of negativity, or allowing those negative thoughts to come, acknowledge them, but don't accept them. Just because those negative thoughts are in your mind, it doesn't mean that they belong to you. Get them out. Those don't belong to you. Those belong to someone else. Those aren't your thoughts. That's not your higher self. Your higher self isn't speaking to you in your mind about bad things and not being able to succeed and accomplish the things that you're seeking. Your higher self is elevated. It's seeking solutions. It's seeking ways and gravitating towards the things that's going to put you where you're seeking to go. It's all in alignment. Align with the frequencies that vibrating towards you, okay? Everything is a frequency. And you are going to attract the things that you think about. You are going to attract the things that you constantly talk about and speak about. Like, all of these things are going to be impactful, and it's going to play a role in how you're going to manage your stress. But I find meditation to be extremely beneficial. So do some meditation. And I see Workout Junkie, she mentions that, journaling and deep breathing works. Definitely works. Just as she says, being consistent. Consistency is very powerful. And I know it's like something that, it's just like, man, I'm tired. I don't want to do it. But hey, you have to be consistent in order to break that habit. You have to. It may be an uncomfortable thing you do at times, but you have to do it, especially when you don't want to do it. That's when the true discipline comes in, is when you know you should be doing something. Like, I'm mad, I'm angry, I want to eat right now. Ooh, but let me be that voice in the back of your mind, like Animated Male said, I should be meditating and journaling right now, So get consistent with it. Keep a journal with you. I keep a journal with me everywhere I go. I bring my bag, I keep my journal with me, I keep a book with me too, but I keep a journal, I keep a book, I keep a pen, because I always want to be like, if I have an idea, if I see someone who creates some type of inspiration, I want to be able to write it down. If I'm emotionally disturbed, I want to get to the bottom of it. Why am I feeling this way? So it's good to utilize that, but being consistent is the key. So that's one thing that is important. Now, the next question I want you all to ask yourself that we're going to be reflective of is, what emotional patterns have you identified through your journaling, and how will you address them? What emotional patterns have you recognized through your journaling, and how will you address them? Right? Because it's good to be mindful and understand about, okay, you know what? I got stressed out at work today because someone, they stepped on my shoes, and I got some all white A1s on right now, and they can't be messing up my all whites. And now I got footprints on my shoes, Hey, don't be getting mad if somebody step on your shoes. I mean, but that's just, that's a silly example, but something that caused you some type of stress. You know what? Side story. I remember back when I was living in Cincinnati, so this was had to be over 15 years ago. This is over 15 years ago. And I was at a club back in my clubbing days. Oh, I'm going to the club. Oh, we going to the club. Hey, back in my clubbing days, no more clubbing though. We don't do that. But there was a friend that I knew, just randomly up there, and I saw him, and he was like, man, next person stepping on my shoes, man, I'm gonna swing on them. I'm just like, bruh, why are you gonna wear brand new fresh shoes to the club when you know people gonna be stepping on your shoes? Like, to me, that doesn't make sense, but I digress. So if something is causing you stress, write it down and acknowledge it. But what are you going to do about it once you acknowledge it and once you write it down? What are you going to do? How are you going to address it? How are you going to address the things that are causing you stress? How are you going to address the things that are causing you strife, that's making you feel bad? Are you just going to allow them to continuously build up and now you have all this emotion? Is that something you're going to allow? Or are you going to be like, you know what? I see this pattern. When I'm around this person, I start to get upset. And you can dive into that emotion and explore why you get upset. Maybe it's the way they talk. Maybe it's their approach. Maybe it's their body language. Maybe they remind you of someone that has caused you some type of trauma or some type of negative emotion, and you relate that to this person. Maybe they have a name that just triggers you. It may be little things that aren't even on a bigger scale, right? So what we need to do is make a positive action to address it. There's a difference. What's Chris's saying? The application of knowledge is power. If we do not apply the knowledge that we've attained from writing down the things that cause us some type of strife, and we don't address it, then we're just wasting this particular strategy. What's the point of writing it down if you aren't going to proactively target these negative emotions and start to push them in a better direction that's going to be beneficial to your overall well-being? So identify those bad boys, address them, and then make that change. Identify, address, and make that change. And I promise you, once you make that change, you'll start to see the benefits and the karma and the energy that you put out it's going to start to show itself. Like, you ever do a good deed for someone, and maybe you're not thinking about, trying to do this for the sake of getting something good back, but maybe you do a good deed, and maybe a month from now, something amazing happens to you. Maybe you hit the lotto, or maybe you just got a year free of a subscription that you enjoy. I don't know, whatever it may be that may be positive. A lot of things will just start happening. And if you are mindful of the things that when you're thinking about things and you put some of that positive energy towards that stuff is going to come back. And I promise you, there's so many things that I've done or experienced, and like so many things that I've witnessed from people and just like personally that I've seen come back to me tenfold in a positive way and also in a negative way. And when I say negative, it's because I put negative stuff out in the world and negative stuff came back. Maybe I did something negative and negative came back. You get what you give. So let's make sure that we're addressing any type of issue that may occur or any type of negative emotion that we may feel, or especially if it's towards someone, because we should not allow people who are outside of us to control our emotions. Do not give your energy to someone else who's not walking in your shoes, who's not in your body, who doesn't understand your journey, who's not in the struggle that you may be appearing to be going through, right? So don't give your energy to people who aren't positive, who aren't good, okay? So acknowledge those and address them. And finally, the next thing that I want us to be reflective of is our relationships. Think about our social connections. How have your relationships and your social connections supported your mental and your emotional wellness? Think about the relationships that you currently have. How have those relationships and the people that you connect with, how have they supported your mental and your emotional wellness? Have they been something that's been inspiring? Has it been something that's motivating? Have they been someone that's been a light, right? Think about that. How has it supported your emotional wellness? Is it something that makes you feel down? Are you around people who make you feel like, oh man, I might as well give up? Because if you are, then you need to address it. You need to address it, okay? But the main goal is to cultivate those positive relationships. Cultivate those positive relationships and make sure that we are following towards those and avoiding the negative, okay? And though, like, because people, they do play a big role in our lives, and especially like your peers, and people that you're close to, they play a really impactful role in your life. And like the funny thing is I'm thinking about just like my personal relationships that I have, and like I have great friends, I have really good relationships, but well, not really a but. Well, no, but but I would like to work out with people. You know, like I like to work out. I work out often. You know, I probably work out 3 or 4 days a week, and 3 for sure. But I don't have anyone to work out with me. I don't have anyone to work out with me, and I get a rush, a little drive from, you know, exercising, building muscle, and you know, talking to, you know, about goals and pushing to do better. I ain't got nobody to spot me when I'm at the gym. I'm trying to lift weights. I got goals I'm trying to make. I ain't got nobody to spot me at the gym, you know? Like, excuse me, kind stranger, I know you're working out, but can you help me? You know, it's just like a little hassle that I would like to avoid. So there are benefits to having that connection and having someone to support you. It like, because once that ball starts rolling, it starts picking up steam, then you become a force, you know, and it's all because of the people that are around you. That's why it's really beneficial. There's so much that you can do when you have people that are around you that are positive, that are amazing. When you're in that state of mind of when you want to give up, and you have someone else pushing you to be better. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And I'm sure you all can see it. So if you all are a part of, well, you know what? I almost thought this was the premium accountability, because typically we talk about things like this. I know some people in here are a part of the premium accountability, but like we have our, you know, we have a good old connection. We have positive things that we talk about, and we uplift each other, and it pushes us to be better. It pushes us to be better on a consistent basis. And so find out, what do you struggle with? You know, Andrea says she struggles with her habits. Workout Junkie mentions that she struggles with being a little consistent. You know what you have to do, but you have to be consistent. So that is key. That should be an aha moment that pops up like, you know what I should do? I should start tackling this immediately. Get on top of it immediately. And you know what? Sorry, Andrea, you recognized it, and now you're better. I'm not saying you have that issue. You had it. You had that tendency, and you identified it, and you changed that habit. That's an amazing thing. So don't mean to stump on your effort, you know, but I want to acknowledge that. So definitely keep that up. And that's exactly what you need to do. Like, once you have those things that you see that you need to get better at, make that constant effort to be effective in making sure it's something that doesn't bother you and it doesn't, you know, get you down. And the next thing that I'll address is, I understand that there's different types of emotional fluctuations and bouts that we go through. And one of the more impactful things is depression, right? We allow depression to be something that eats at us. And then we give depression the power, sadness. And I understand it's much different. I have a great understanding about it now, but we do not have to give power to that negative emotion of depression. We don't have to give power to that. That's a feeling. I know it's much deeper than just saying, hey, cheer up and be happy. I know it. I know it's much deeper than that, but you have an awareness. That's why it's important to bring yourself to awareness. And once you have awareness of self, then that's when you start to mitigate and stop doing those things. And overall, once you start to do positive in one area, so you all started the DR48 challenge that we just recently did a few weeks back, and we're now doing the 80-90. It's not really a challenge, but it's just more of something that's occurring. But we did that challenge, and once you complete that challenge, you will feel better mentally and physically. And those things work in tandem. So if you are mentally feeling better, physically, it is going to be the cause of that happening. You're going to physically feel it. You're going to be more energized. You're going to be more hyped. You're going to feel like you're on top of the world. And so that depression or that negative emotion that may have been a rain cloud over your life is going to stop. It's going to play the background. It's going to be in the background. And once you start to change those habits, you'll start to implement better mind patterns, the things that you say to yourself. All of these things are going to just naturally accrue as you become more healthier. So the main thing that we need to focus on is our mindset, awareness of the things that's causing us trauma, the people that we have in our life that are positive so we can maintain a positive relationship, and also being reflective and writing down the things that are happening with us emotionally, okay? All right. Now I want to close with an affirmation. I appreciate you all for rocking out with me. And hopefully next week I'll have my microphone sounding a little better, but I'm glad you all can hear me clearly. Now, affirmation that I want to say is, I embrace mindfulness. I embrace mindfulness and emotional resilience, fostering inner peace and nurturing meaningful connections in my life. Okay? That is our affirmation for this week. Next week will be week 4, and it will be our last week of this, maintenance, our health maintenance, man. So I hope y'all ready, because the next one's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun out there. But I hope this was beneficial. If there's anything that you missed, feel free to, message me or play the thing back or play the replay back, and you'll be able to listen to it again. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. I will see you beautiful people next week. For those who are in the premium accountability group, I will see y'all Wednesday. Ha ha ha. I will see you. I think it's my week. I will see you all Wednesday. But yes, appreciate you all. Peace and love. And I will see you all next time. All right.